in this business is great for those of you that are listening, in the sense that, your where you are today and where you could be 6 months from now could be dramatically different, more different than than you can imagine, because the sky's the limit. So I'm saying that as an encouragement, that if you are in this business and you're trying to make it work, the sky's the limit. And this is not hey, after 20 years, maybe I can make some decent money. Things can change literally overnight, and that within 3 months.
If you're looking to drive more leads into your real estate investing business in order to convert those leads into deals, and you're trying to figure out how to get away from what everybody else is doing, on today's podcast episode, I have a very special guest that's going to share with you how you can use Facebook in order to start driving leads into your real estate investing business today. All that and more coming right up. Hey everyone, Jamel Gibbs here. Welcome to another podcast episode. And today we have a very special guest. I'm really excited about this call actually, because I've known Cris for quite some time, and we get on the phone a lot. We share a lot of good ideas. We were just talking right before we jumped on the line about some world domination stuff. And I wanted to get him on the line specifically because, number one, he is, if you guys didn't know, Cris is the creator of virtual wholesaling. So anybody that you see out there that's promoting real estate investing virtually, especially in the wholesaling realm, it all started with that man that you're looking at right there on the screen, Cris Chico. And in addition to that, he's also taking over another particular niche that I've actually implemented myself through him. And that's the Facebook traffic, using Facebook to drive motivated seller leads. He's really innovating that particular part of the real estate investing niche. So I really wanted to get him on a call today to talk to him about what he's doing in his business and how we can benefit from it as well, in order to be able to get more deals and make more money, close more deals in our real estate investing businesses. So, Cris, what's up, man?
How are you? I'm flattered that we're having, that you invited me to come on, and so a lot of pressure. So I'm going to do the best I can, and I even shaved my head for you just to make sure that I was nice and proper. And I'm excited. I'm excited for you and I to chat together, and maybe we can help others do some world domination of themselves. Absolutely, man. Yeah.
And I kind of feel bad because I didn't shave my face today, but it's all good. I'm sure everybody understands. But hey, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself, Cris?
So, my story is I grew up, and I'll make this a little bit brief. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I grew up in Puerto Rico, and then I came to the U.S. when I was young. When I came here to the U.S., I lived in the mountains of Puerto Rico. Literally, when I left Puerto Rico, we had just gotten running water. As a kid, I always remember going out in the middle of the night to the outhouse to go use the bathroom, and kind of waiting around for the cockroaches to scurry around before I can go ahead and use the bathroom. And then I came to the U.S. I lived in Connecticut for a little bit, and then finally made my way up to Florida. And, we didn't have a whole lot of money. We grew up poor on welfare and food stamps. And but I always had people. Somebody asked me the other day. I said, did you get into real estate because you really love real estate and you're passionate about it? And I'm like, no, I just wanted to make a lot of money, and I needed to find some way to make a lot of money. So I went out and I did what everybody does, or thinks they should do. And I went out and I went to school. I got a college education. And I always was a little bit entrepreneurish, meaning, I always wanted to, always trying to figure out a way to make money, etc. And I went and I got a degree in accounting, and that lasted about 6 months when I realized that this ain't for me. And what happened is I actually replied to an ad that a real estate company had that was a little bit, I guess, underhanded, in that they were advertising for a job, and I went, and then lo and behold, what they were really advertising is, hey, we'll help you get your license, and then you could become a real estate agent. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't think of that. So I got my real estate license, and then I was a horrible real estate agent. And I was a horrible real estate agent because although you and I are here together and I'm talking to you and you're like, hey, Chico knows how to talk to people and that sort of thing. I was a horrible real estate agent because I would spend all day organizing my leads and never calling them. And I would wait all day. So it was really struggling with that. And then eventually I had a friend of mine, as luck would have it, that he was working for a bank, he was working for a real estate company that was doing all the selling their foreclosures. And he's like, hey, if you want, we got an opening. We need another real estate agent. You can come in and do this. And I'm like, okay. So I was like an agent that the banks would give their deals to. I was an REO agent. And so I did that for a couple of years. And, in that time, people were buying properties and I had no idea what wholesaling was or investing was. And then eventually what happened is that the guy that was buying most of my deals, him and I became friends. And then one day he's like, hey, why don't you come work for me and I'll teach you the business? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So it was like, in life, you always think about those pivotal moments in life where you make those decisions and that one decision leads you in your life in a completely different direction. And that was one of them for me, that I said, okay, fine, I'll take it. And so I worked with him for a year and I didn't make, what happened in that year is I didn't make a whole lot of money. He was just paying me $1,000 a deal. And I made about $52,000 that year. But
I did about 52 deals, basically.
I did 52 deals.
Nice.
However, if you think about to do 52 deals, you have to analyze. You know how many deals you analyze to do 52 deals. Yeah. So in essence, I got the experience that a regular investor would get, right, in like 3 or 4 years. I got it in like 1 year. And I knew coming in that I wanted to go out on my own after that. And so what happened is that was back in the day with Florida was having a real big uptick in the market. So a lot of their banks were no longer having that many foreclosures. Why? Because if you're defaulting on your loan but you have equity because the market is on the rise, then the property doesn't make it that often to foreclosure because you can sell it on the open market and make money from it. Mm-hmm. So when I left and I decided to go on my own, I saw the writing on the wall and I said, hey, I got to go out and find property owners that are private, that are not with real estate agents, right? And also I got tired of dealing with real estate agents. I'm a real estate agent. There's nothing wrong with real estate agents, but with the REO game, you always got to be kissing frogs, with the real estate agents. Whereas I didn't want that. I wanted to just, hey, I get in contact with a private owner, buy their house, and that's it. End of story. I don't have to deal with their BS after the fact, right? And so I started on that path. And then what ended up happening is that, and this is the advice I give to everybody, is that I was going out and doing all these different things. I was doing pre-foreclosures. I was doing, probates. I was doing a variety of different marketing methods. I was doing what I call door driving, which is driving is when you try to do door knocking, but you're too chicken to knock at the door, right? So you just drive by the doors, right? Not a really good, effective way to find deals. Let me tell you. And so I did that. And then what happened with me is that as I was going to these different seminars, I noticed a common thread that most of the real estate investors that I saw were having great success were doing some sort of direct mail. They were doing some sort of, so what I did is I just decided, you know what, I'm going to put everything aside. I'm going to focus on direct mail. And then still it was a bit of a struggle until, again, one thing that I learned that I highly recommend everyone learn is I learned the skill of direct response marketing. I bought a book from a guy named Dan Kennedy, who a book called The Ultimate Sales Letter. And because I was testing out a bunch of different letters and I wasn't getting anywhere. And so I bought his book and I sat down, and with the use of that book, I created my first set of postcards. What
was the name of that book again? Just for our listeners?
It's called The Ultimate Sales Letter.
Just so you guys know, The Ultimate Sales Letter. I actually have it on Audible myself. I was listening to it the other day, but I listen to that book frequently. Yeah. Definitely a great book, especially if you're involved in real estate, primarily because it will help you learn how to get your message out the right way and get people to respond to that message.
Exactly. So I learned direct response marketing, and I finally was able to get my postcards to work. And it was interesting because I went from making a couple $1,000 a month to 6 months later making $110,000 in a single month, which is the most that I've ever made most that I made in the previous year. Right. And so that's one of the things I say about that is that in this business is great for those of you that are listening, in the sense that you're where you are today. and where you could be 6 months from now could be dramatically different, more different than you can imagine, because the sky's the limit. So I'm saying that as an encouragement that if you are in this business, so you're trying to make it work, the sky's the limit. And this is not hey, after 20 years, maybe I can make some decent money. Things can change literally overnight, and that within 3 months.
Yeah.
And so then I started the path of doing postcards, and we were sending out a lot of postcards. I had, back in the day, this was before everybody was hiring acquisitions people. What I ended up doing is, even though I was talking with these sellers, I was still, mind you, I failed as a real estate agent because I was a horrible salesperson. So I procrastinated on calling people. And after a while, I was like, man, I got to get other people to help me. So I had 3 guys that were helping me, and I would run the whole back end marketing, and they would be the ones talking with the sellers and everything else. And we were making great money. And then what happened is that the market was starting, I kind of felt that, hey, the market was starting to slow down, but I noticed that other people in other parts of the country were not being affected, in the way that we were affected. And so then that's what started the path of like, hey, these people are doing business in other areas. Can I do something else in another area? And I started with Jacksonville. And, if I thinking through it, I was like, well, I can get the mailing list, right? For the people, and it's back in the days. Now everybody has it easy. Like you can go like 4 or 5 different places, 10 places, and get like the names of these people, like
right,
of your seller prospects, and do your postcards. Back then it was difficult. Like there was only one source. It was difficult. It was expensive. Postcards, I was one of the ones that engineered postcards where you would have the postcard and it would have the seller's information on it and the address. That wasn't commonplace back when I was doing it. 2003, it wasn't commonplace. It took a lot of work to get somebody to do that. And even 24 recorded messages. I was one of the first guys who used 24 recorded messages, only because we were getting so many calls that literally in an afternoon when the mail hit, we couldn't even answer everybody's call. We would sit there, and even back then there was no CRM. We would sit there with a notebook, and we would have to handwrite all the messages, right, and do all that. And there was no Google Street View.
I was doing that. I was handwriting messages with my team up until maybe 6-7 years ago. I definitely swapped that 24-hour recorded message from you. I got that from you.
Okay. And even like and there was no there was no Google Street View back in the day. I was doing virtual wholesaling. We had to go out and hire somebody on Craigslist. And back then people didn't have these things here with cameras. You had to find somebody with a digital camera that knew how to upload it. It was a mess. But I went in and I went into Jacksonville, and then eventually figured out hey, how I can go into those markets, get the cash buyers, and do everything. And I was doing that in Florida, in Tampa, and in Jacksonville, and then I did it in Texas. And it's funny because in Texas, when I did it in Texas, I didn't know Texas was a non-disclosure state. All right, when I first went in there.
Right.
And then when you look at the comps, back in the days, I was using RealQuest. And in RealQuest, we use an algorithm to try to figure out or determine what a property really sold for, but really inaccurate. But when you looked at the report, this was like, I don't know, it's almost idiotic. When you look at the report, the numbers would be like when you buy a house, you buy it for like 100,500 or 105,000, right? The numbers were like 95,485. Like weird numbers. And it didn't even occur to me. I thought to myself, man, people in Texas buy houses at weird prices. And somebody, after I said that to somebody, they're like, Chico, I think you're an idiot. And maybe they were right. But so I did that, and so I was able to figure out the and then I had a transition. In marketing, things change. So I was creating these postcards, and the postcards were really like verbose and had a lot of writing on them. And then what happened is that then all my direct mail was coming back to a UPS store. And then when I went to the UPS store, I started to see that UPS store, they had a couple other investors at that store, but the UPS store can't tell the difference in the postcards when they come back. So they try to sort them out. But when they sorted them out, I ended up getting postcards that weren't mine. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh, they look like mine, but they're somebody else's. And I started to think, well, gee, how am I going to stand out if everybody else is sending out the same postcard? So then that's when I created what are called like the blind copy postcard, the third notice of property notification, etc. Because I thought, well, I just want the phone number. If I can get the phone number, then I can call them, right? It doesn't matter if it's a good list. All I want is a phone number. So it's almost like skip tracing 0.1, right?
Yeah.
Because I was just trying to get the phone number. So I did that. And then what happened is that then little by little, nowadays there's a lot more people doing direct mail. Back in the days, if we send out 1,000 postcards and we didn't pick up 2 or 3 deals, we
Yeah,
thought something
response
wrong.
rate was a lot higher back then. Now everybody's a real estate investor. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
one thing I was going to mention, you kind of innovated an entire industry because of virtual wholesaling. And if you think about this logically, you have all these other tools. You have CRM systems that came out. You have direct mail companies that built themselves up off of virtual wholesaling. You have different real estate investing software to make virtual wholesaling a lot easier. You have comparable sales systems. All of these things improved because of this one area of investing, if you think about that.
Oh, I never thought about that. That's interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
So you got some bragging rights there, man.
That is interesting. I never thought of it that way, but yeah. Back then it was really, really tough, man. Everybody has it a lot easier now than we had it before.
Yeah, absolutely. Technology, man.
Yeah. So I was doing the postcards, and then what happened is that the results weren't they were decreasing.
Right.
So I was trying to make a decision about what I was going to do next. Right. I knew that, for example, SEO, I could try SEO, but SEO was a slower process. And I didn't, I thought I don't want to wait, a year to get my website ranked. PPC, which a lot of people are aware of when you can advertise on Google, a lot of people were already in that game, and it was very expensive. Right. All my friends that I spoke with, they told me how much they were paying per lead, and it was very expensive. And to me, it wasn't feasible. And I didn't want to do stuff like RVMs and stuff like that, just by choice. And so then, which is ringless voicemail. So then what happened is I was thinking, but nobody really is doing Facebook, right? Nobody's really being effective at it. And, for me, the tipping point was when my mom got on Facebook. Because for me, I always thought about like only young people are on Facebook, not our sellers. Our sellers are older. And then all of a sudden, now I see my mom, and my mom, she thinks the internet is Facebook, right? She thinks that's So I was like, there has to be something there. So I went out and I ended up buying like a bunch of courses that were just generic Facebook courses.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying them out, and not really that great results. And then I went back to my direct mail days, and I'm like, what worked in direct mail? What worked in direct mail, if you think about it, in the past, people were sending out the "We Buy Houses" cash, generic postcards. When I did my postcards, it was very personal. Like, hey, this is Chris, and I was driving around the area, and I noticed your property at 123 Main Street, and I was curious if you might be thinking about it. So it was kind of personal. So what ended up happening is I took that same personal approach and we can get into this, with the Facebook. And the minute I did that, that's when all the results started coming in.
Game changer.
Yeah, and so for me, it was like now, and we can get into this. When I first started, we could promote by zip code. Now we don't promote by zip code, so the targeting is a little bit different. But the whole entire thing of the whole zip code came up. The idea came up because I was like, well, if I send a postcard to someone, then I want to put in that postcard as much information as I can, so that the person thinks that is personal to them, their name and the address. And I thought to myself, how can I do that with Facebook? Mm-hmm. And then I thought, well, the only common identifier would be the zip code. If I just target by zip code, and I put the zip code in the ad and the zip code in the ad copy, then it becomes more personal. And that's how the whole thing started, really. And then now to the point where, in terms of Facebook, we have over 1,200 clients that we've helped, get up and running with Facebook. And they're having great results, phenomenal results. And for us, that's our primary strategy that we're focusing on right now. And we can get into the Facebook strategy. But one thing I want to say is this: there's 3 things that I think that are like my core belief for anybody listening to this podcast. And this applies to me, like if I'm giving advice to a friend. And I think about, like, if you're going out into the world and you want to create an income for yourself, and you want to create a foundation that no matter what happens in the economy, that you have the ability to generate money, right? I believe, number one, that everybody should learn how to do a real estate transaction that is not their own personal residence. That somebody should learn the skill of going out and finding a property that they can purchase below market. Now, whether or not they want to do that 5 times a year, 1 time a year, 50 times a year, it doesn't matter. But that's a skill that you could use all your entire life, right? Yep. That's number one. Number two is I'm a big believer that everybody should learn how to sell. Now, how you sell depends on what you're best at. So I learned how to sell by writing great postcards, by writing great copy and getting sellers, right? But our business is a belly-to-belly business. So anybody watching here or listening is, number one, you got to learn how to sell. If you look at the book that I recommended, the Dan Kennedy book, it's a great book to learn and to study, to learn how to talk and communicate in a way that you can persuade people, whether it be in print or whether that be by voice in front of them. And then the last thing is, I think that everybody should learn and understand how to use online advertising, because that's not going to go away. I think that
actually it was still in the infant stages of online advertising.
Exactly.
So people are still you got things like TikTok popping up, and now they're running ads on TikTok and figuring out how to be effective with that. So really, if you learn online advertising now is the best time to start. Not tomorrow, now. Don't forget about yesterday, but right now is the best time to start. So I 100% agree with that, man.
And whenever you have who knows what's going to happen with Facebook, but whenever you have another platform, right, like Snapchat has advertising.
Right.
If you look at their interface, it looks very close to Facebook.
Yeah.
So they just copy what other
copycat.
So that means if you learn, for example, Facebook, and I say Facebook because everybody's on Facebook, it's the easiest platform to learn. That if you do that, then whatever happens in the future, you're gonna learn and understand the language. Right. It's like learning Latin. If you learn Latin, then you know what English sounds like, what Spanish. You learn the foundation, right? You're learning a foundational language that's going to carry you over. And to me, I'm a firm believer in that. If you want to put yourself in a position to win long term, that if you learn those skills, and I have people in my training that have taken the Facebook stuff, and then they have a regular business that they operate, and they're like, oh, I took your Facebook stuff, and now I'm using it for my other business that's a local business, but now I'm using it for that. And to me, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the power of it. But and we can definitely get into like the nitty gritty of the Facebook. But I wanted to say that because that's one of the things that I really am a firm believer in: real estate, sales, and you got to learn, online marketing.
Absolutely. Now, for me, I definitely I had some experience with Facebook ads, but since they started changing their platform around and stuff like that, it became a little more difficult for me to understand it. So then I started helping my wife with a Shopify store, and then I started learning more about Shopify and how that worked. And this was a couple of years ago. But then ultimately, I saw that you were crushing it on Facebook, so I reached out to you. If you want to see another interview between Cris and I, Cris actually interviewed me. I'll post that up in the cards above. It should be popping up right about now. But what I'll do is I'll link the interview between Cris and I, so you can watch that on his channel. But Facebook completely changed the game for me. I'm actually about to revamp my ads at the moment and start running some new ads next week. So what are some of the?
I was going to say, you're still doing direct mail.
I am.
One of the things I say is that I would never ask anybody to abandon what you're already doing. So if you're already doing direct mail, it doesn't mean that, hey, like Jamel's doing great with direct mail. Should you do direct mail? You should. Here's my asterisk. My asterisk is that you should, if you're going to do direct mail or do these strategies, the comment I was going to make is most people are doing it wrong. Like either they're doing it wrong, or they're like, for example, in the way that you're doing it, and you and I have had conversations, it's very niche list, very specific postcards, and it's working tremendous for you.
Yep.
So you didn't give it up. What you did is you just used Facebook and added to what your
multiple modalities, man. Yeah. That's it. Multiple modalities. So we do direct mail, cold calling, and pay-per-click as our 3 main sources, and we use RVMs, text messaging, and email as our follow-up source. that works really well. So for example, if we do something like send out a postcard, we'll follow up with an RVM. As soon as we receive a postcard in the mail, we'll follow up with, hey, there's a pink postcard in your mailbox right now.
Okay.
It's kind of like the blind copy thing, but the idea is to spark curiosity. What's this pink postcard in my mailbox? So you receive the pink postcard. How does this guy know that there's a pink postcard in the mailbox?
Right. I like that.
We follow up with the RVM. As soon as I receive one in the office, we do a broadcast saying, hey, there's probably a pink postcard in your mailbox. If it's not there right now, it should be there really soon. Check your mailbox and give us a call when you receive it, that type of thing. So it works really well. So when it comes to, let's talk about some Facebook stuff. Mm-hmm. When it comes to Facebook, how hard is it for the average person to set up their entire Facebook account and get the thing running?
Well, out of all the online platforms, like if you compare Facebook and Google, Facebook is the easiest, right? Mm-hmm. Google is the hardest. The couple of things I would say is that I think it's relatively easy. I mean, we've been able to take, I have students that within 2 hours have their first ad up and running. The one thing I would say is that a couple of things. What do you need in order to get up and running with Facebook? Number one is you need a business page. And the business page is the equivalent of a website, but it happens to be on Facebook's property. And the one tip I would give about creating your business page is to create a business page that's personal. Don't create a business page that's like XYZ home buyers and you have the little avatar being a house, and think that you're going to brand yourself. At the beginning, you may brand yourself over many, many years, but at the end, people do business with other people. And so my recommendation is you go out. The first step would be for you to create a business page and create that page in a personal name. Like mine is Cris Buys Houses, Jamel's Buys Houses, whatever it is. Include your personal photo in the little avatar. So when you run an ad, it shows your personal photo. And then put in some pictures of you and your family, and maybe record a video in your phone and say, hey, I buy houses, etc. And make it look personal in nature. So that's the first thing you need.
Same thing with, not to cut you off, but it's the same concept when it comes to bandit signs. When it comes to bandit signs, if you guys, I don't personally like to do bandit signs anymore. We use internet bandit signs like what Cris Chico does with the Facebook ads. We call those internet bandit signs, but it's the same concept. When you think about a bandit sign and you think about a professional looking bandit sign versus a handwritten bandit sign, remember, and keeping in mind, people like to do business with local individuals that they can meet. Like you said, it's a belly to belly business. So people like to do business with people they like and trust, but the only way for them to trust you is for them to think that you're local. So when it comes to a handwritten sign versus a printed sign, in my opinion, the handwritten sign is going to win all the time because it looks like someone wrote that sign and put it out. It looks like an individual is in your local area. And from my experiences, you can obviously test this out. I'm not right all the time. I'm just right 99.9% of the time.
You say that only when your wife is not around.
That's right. Exactly. She's definitely not around right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But just kind of taking that same concept. That's exactly what Cris is talking about with, the Facebook page. You can I'm going to make up a word here, corporatize your page.
Right.
Or you can personalize your page. A personal page is going to win all the time over the corporate type of page because, people want to do business with real people. So I just wanted to hit that home for you.
100%. You're 100% right on that. The second thing that people need is a website. Every investor should have a website. I mean, because if you talk to a seller, all right, and if you talk to a seller, that's part of your credibility. Mm-hmm. If you're especially over the phone, you say, "Hey, this is Cris from my website." Now, I have certain opinions about websites in terms of like what the domain name should be. People sometimes create these websites that are like XYZ Property LLC for you. Like, no. So the advice I would give to someone on a website, because you need a website because you need to be able to provide a link to a privacy policy to be able to advertise on Facebook. But you should have a website anyway. But what you should do is create a website, register a domain that is easy for you to clearly tell the person over the phone your website, and they would immediately know what it is. They don't they don't have to ask you how to spell it, and also it tells them what you do. So, for example, I don't have this one anymore because I got another one. But one of my domains used to be "Sell Your Florida House Today." So if I call you and I say, "Hey, this is Chris from sellyourfloridahhousetoday.com," already I've given you three things. I have a website, so there's a legitimacy. Oh, sellyourfloridahouse.com. They get it, and they're like, "Oh yes, I guess I do want to sell my Florida house, so I should be talking to you." So, now our website now is it's more like Sell Your USA Home. I don't want to say what the rest of it is, but but again, it's a website that clearly articulates to the person what you do, and you don't have to spell it. Like, don't use numbers and listen. If you have to spend more than 2 seconds repeating your website, and you have to spend 10 seconds to spell it out for them, that's not a good domain. Yeah. So you need that. And then, typically, if you're advertising online with Google, you have to send people to your website. But with Facebook has this thing called a lead form, which is just a way for them to capture information from the prospect. But that prospect never has to leave Facebook. They just click on the button, the form pops up, you do that, and that's all. So we use Facebook to lead forms. So now we don't have to worry about is a landing page going to convert and all the other stuff. And then at the end of the day, then they just need a system to manage the leads. I know you provide a great one, so they should go with yours. If somebody doesn't have the budget and you literally cannot afford a CRM, just send the leads to your email. And then when you get them in your email, you will call the lead right on the phone, use a paper, and eventually when you do your first deal, you sign up with a system that Jamel has, and then that's great. Now you have a better, robust way of organizing your leads, but keep it simple. At the beginning, at the end of the day, you just need to keep it simple. But those are really the three main things you need in order to get up and running and get started with Facebook from a foundational nuts and bolts, plumbing type of deal.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then.
Awesome.
The other thing I was going to cover, if you want me to cover, would be is the targeting. How do we target on Facebook?
Yeah, because Facebook completely changed the way we can target because of the laws and laws and stuff like that that's going on. I believe it was about a year ago now. Has it been?
It's been a year. So
it's been a year.
So I'm gonna do two things when I tell you this. I'm gonna explain the targeting, but I'm gonna also tell you some things that everybody should, we'll try to keep it high level, but I also want to tell you some things that I've tested recently that are working well.
Perfect.
You're going to want to do for your campaigns. So it used to be that we could advertise by zip code. So we could really narrow down by zip code, but Facebook took that away. We're not going to get into the reasons why they took it away, but they took it away. It doesn't matter. It's gone. So then now your options are a 15-mile radius, okay, or you can select the entire county, or you can select the grouping of counties or an entire state. So to give you an example, if I go ahead and I target, let's work from the top down. If I wanted to target the entire state of Florida, because I want to do deals virtually, I can put in a budget of $50 a day, or you could do $35 a day or $30 a day, and you'll be able to get leads for $7 to $10 a lead, which is a very low cost per lead. Now, a lead is somebody who fills out the form, basically, and now you get an email and they're saying, "Hey, I'm interested in selling my house. Please call me." That's a lead. So now that's big picture. You can target the entire state. You can also take a grouping of counties together, and then you could target those all, and with a similar budget, $35 a day. And now you're going to get leads from those three counties. It really depends on where you want to operate in, right? Or you can now let's say that I only wanted to target Broward County, Florida, which is where I live.
Right.
So I wanted to target the county. Well, what happens is this is what's changed. The higher budgets don't work for the smaller area. So let's say that in the past, I'm trying to explain it in a way that you understand, but also I don't lose everybody here. So whereas in the past, we would set a campaign budget, and the way that Facebook works is that you set up your campaign, and then you have underneath that campaign, you have a certain structure. We'll call them ad sets. So for the larger, wider area campaigns, you set a budget. You set the $50, $35 budget at the campaign level, and you let it go. You don't have to touch it, and you'll produce leads until you stop it. When it comes to the smaller areas, what we found is that the lower budgets work better. So, for example, I was running a campaign in Broward County, and I was running it at $50 a day, 75. I said, well, let me give Facebook 100 and 150 bucks a day, and maybe they'll give me some love. And I wasn't getting any leads. Now, I was running the same campaign for 50 bucks a day in Florida, just targeting the whole state. I did it also targeting like the major counties too as well, so I could get like the major metro areas. And that thing was consistently pumping out leads at $9, $10 a lead. But when I was doing it in Broward, it wasn't working. What we figured out is that the minute you start going county or niching down, it has to be low budget. So the campaigns that we have that are working are $5 a day per ad set. So let's say if that same campaign for Broward, if we don't put the budget at the campaign level, we put the budget at the ad set level. And I give each ad set, the way I have it structured in the course, I have the 4 ad sets. Each ad set gets $5.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is that campaign will start to produce leads. But however, it's producing a lead, sometimes 2 a day. And you might be wondering like, well, I want more than that.
I want more than, right.
You just duplicate the campaign.
That's how you scale it. That's called scaling, everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's say I might take, let's say the original one is version 1, and that produces leads. And I say, let me duplicate that. So I duplicate that campaign twice. So now I have 3 versions of it.
Mm-hmm.
After a couple of days, you might find that version 2, it didn't really produce any leads. So you just shut that one down. But version 3 is producing. And now you have 2 of them simultaneously. So the thing is, and I have this in the course material now because you have access to it. But now the low budget campaigns are producing. And listen, I don't know if you're familiar with Broward, but I could never get any leads in Hollywood or Pembroke Park or Miramar and those areas that are like investor really heavy, meaning that investors are always looking for deals. And then now we're getting leads and good quality leads. Like you look at the house, you're like, oh, that's a nice concrete block house. It looks like the kind of neighborhood. So the difference is that now because of the different targeting, if you give Facebook, you have to understand that Facebook doesn't charge you per lead. Facebook charges you per impression. That means that they show your ad to someone. It doesn't matter what action they take, then Facebook is going to charge you. It is your job to make your ad your ad perform, to provide the right ad copy, to provide the right images, so then now that you get somebody's attention. But Facebook is going to charge you regardless of the outcome. The consistent thing with Facebook is that whatever money you commit to giving Facebook at the beginning of the day, Facebook is going to take all of your money. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter, right? If you say, Facebook, here's $100, they're going to, at the end of the day, maybe you might have 2 pennies left over, but they're going to try to squeeze and try to take
even the 2 pennies out of you,
regardless if they can find somebody or not. So what happens is that and this is great because this is actually even better, because now the struggle that we had is that if you're starting out and you've got a low budget, then what do? But now it works better because it works better with the low budget, because now you're saying to Facebook, I'm only going to give you this little bit of money. Go find me people that are interested, in what I have to offer. And now it's forcing the algorithm to go out and find those people. And it's really interesting because it's counterintuitive. It's really odd. Yeah. I would have never thought that it would work.
So are you finding, because I know at one point we spoke a couple months ago at a mastermind, but are you finding that obviously the local stuff doesn't work anymore? And a funny story with that, I took a picture of a house that I've been trying to get forever. Took a picture and used that as one of my Facebook ads. And I had people chiming in, hey, I know that house. That was pretty funny. But obviously, so the zip code stuff doesn't work. Are you finding that the regional stuff is working a lot better right now?
No, it's actually, they both work, but you have to be approached differently. Yeah. So if you're saying targeting the county, right? Mm-hmm. You're saying, I just want deals in my county, then you've got to do the low budget. You can't.
That's what it was. Okay.
Money. Yeah. You've got to give it, $5 per ad set or $10 per ad set, no more, because otherwise Facebook is just going to take your money.
How many ad sets are you setting up for that?
Well, you have to. The way I have it structured is that inside the campaign, you have the campaign, and then we have one ad set that has no interest.
Right.
We have another ad set that has all the interest together. Then if you look at the grouping of interest, some of them are loan-related interest, like refinance, cash out, etc. And then some of them more like real estate, Zillow, Trulia, Homes.com, or whatever.
Right.
So when we take those and we separate them and we make them their own individual assets. So we have 4 assets. One is no interest, one is all interest, one is all loan-related interest, and one is home-related, like Zillow, Trulia, etc. And so we have 4 assets.
$5 each, let's just say.
$5 each. $5 each.
And then once you have that $5 set, so that's $20 a day per campaign, pretty much.
Yeah.
$5 per ad set. You let it run. You look at the winners, and then you duplicate whichever one is bringing in the most leads.
No, what happens
You're
is
not duplicating them.
Well, you don't. There's a couple of things that can happen. Let's say you let that run for a couple of days. One thing that'll happen is that you'll see that you're getting leads from all of them, so you just don't touch them.
Right.
Now, if after 2 or 3 days, let's say after you spent on each ad set at least $20 or $30, and say some of them are just not giving you leads, then you turn them off. But most of the time, what we've been finding is that they all are producing leads, all of them.
Got it.
Then what you do is that then you just, now that you take that campaign and you duplicate it and you just run it again. And I would recommend you run it twice. You duplicate it twice. So now you have like 3 versions of the same campaign running out there. And then one will not work. The other one will catch on. And so you're scaling by doing it that way. And I gotta tell you, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. In Broward County, I was, for the last couple months, this is just new. This is literally the last couple weeks, because I was running the campaigns all across Florida. But in the county, for me personally, Broward is a very highly contested county. I was giving Facebook a bunch of money and it just wasn't producing. And then when I did that, and I'm trying to think of how I thought about the idea, but I couldn't think. I don't know how. Maybe it was I was in the middle of the night and then I just thought of it. But now all of a sudden, now we're getting leads in Broward for $18 to $20 a lead, which is really good.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
In Broward County, for legitimately good properties, good prospects. And then the rule of thumb I give people is this: when it comes to Facebook, is because people always ask me how many leads does it take to put a deal in place, and I always give the rule of thumb of 50 leads to get one deal. I think you've done better on that.
I have, partly because I do a lot of creative stuff as well, so I can pick up more deals than the average wholesaler.
Right. That's what I was going to say. If Jamel, he knows how to talk. Like, if we compare you to somebody who's just starting out, you know how to talk to sellers.
Yeah, I can get a lot more deals.
Yeah, you can get a lot more deals. But that goes with any marketing that you do. Any marketing that anybody does, you're always, as you're beginning, you're going to have to do a lot more reps, get a lot more leads through that channel. And then as you get better, then you're going to be able to do more deals. But as a rule of thumb, I tell people, look, because I've had people that have gotten their first deal after the first 10 leads. And I say, well, that's great that they got that. But, if you go in knowing that, look, I'm going to commit to, generating 50 leads at $20 a lead, or $25 a lead, that's about $1,000 to $1,250. Knowing that, hey, if you did a deal and that deal was worth $7,500 to $10,000 as a wholesale deal, that's a good ROI on your money anyway.
Right.
Yeah. And you go ahead.
What are you finding is the average cost per lead to deal? Let's just say the average cost per lead.
The average cost per, I always like to go on the side of worst case scenario. So to me, it based on what I see with the students, it's really somewhere between the 1,500 to 2,000 number, right?
Yeah. That's about right. So you figure cost per, depends on how you word it, but cost per lead that's going to turn into a deal and probably some profit in your pocket. You're going to spend about $1,500 to $2,000. Yeah. It's about right.
Because in the beginning, like as you're starting out brand new, as you get better with running, so I know how to run my campaigns. I know how to do them well. So obviously, I'm going to have the best chance of getting the lowest cost per lead. But in the beginning, as you're running the campaigns, you're not going to, you're still learning. So you might pay unnecessarily a higher cost per lead. Like,
Mhm.
you might pay $30 a lead. They're good leads, but you're doing things that are not correct, that are not optimal.
Right.
And so you have to pay that tax, right? So that's why the lead, what if you're paying $40 a lead, but eventually you get a deal from that. But over time, you get better and better and better. You get better at managing the campaigns, and now you're able to get a lower cost per lead. And so therefore now your numbers go down, and so things get better.
And really, that's pretty comparable to a direct mail campaign. You can spend $1,500 to $2,000 and get deals all day long. How many times can you spend the $2,000 to make the next deal? The benefit to, in my opinion, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, the benefit to using Facebook is, number one, you don't have to dish out a whole bunch of money up front.
Right.
It's all done virtually. So you're not receiving stacks and stacks of postcards. But in addition to that, not only are you not spending a whole bunch, what happens is Facebook, and what do I mean by you're not spending a whole bunch of money up front? Facebook charges you, I believe it's the 28th of every month, something like that. You can set it to where they charge you once a month. So you can literally run campaigns. Those of you who are on a budget right now and you don't have a lot of money to spend on, let's say, a big direct mail campaign, you can set this up and hook up your credit card to Facebook or your debit card and have Facebook pull your money within the next month rather than, pulling your money right now. So you don't have to dish that money out right away. You can let the campaigns run, get leads, and then at the end of the month, Facebook will charge you whatever your threshold is. So that's a wonderful thing, in my opinion, especially for those of you getting started right now. That's the beautiful thing about going this route versus direct mail or something like that. This is comparable to cold calling. It doesn't really cost you anything right off the bat. You will pay for your ads, but you don't have to pay right now. So it gives you an opportunity to get some business going. But yeah, if you spend about $1,500 to $2,000 cost per deal, cost per lead, that sounds about right. The beautiful thing is you'll save the money up front right now. And money now, in my opinion, money is more valuable now than it is later. So I want to keep my money in my pocket now, get some results from it, and then be able to pay Facebook later. So that's the reason why. Not only, obviously there's a tower full of reasons why you want to be online now, but in my opinion, for those of you just getting started, that is an invaluable reason to get started on Facebook right now.
Yeah, and there's two other things I want to mention about that. Number one is also from a testing perspective. If you go out and do a direct mail campaign, for example, you need a certain number of records. You got to mail at least 1,000, 2,000 postcards, et cetera, in order to try to get some meaningful test results. And that varies depending on the list, et cetera. The nice thing about Facebook is that the only way you would ever spend $1,000 is that you spend $20 or $30 and you got leads, and you say, oh, wow, I got leads. I'm going to spend another $20, $30 tomorrow. And if tomorrow you get leads, then you keep on spending. That's a great thing. It's a very quick feedback loop. That's number one. Number two is I think that Facebook is great for people that have a full-time job, because you can set your ads up and running. If you want to do cold calling is hard. If you have a full-time job, you get home at 6 o'clock, you got to deal with your kids, your wife. By the time you're done, it's 8 o'clock. Who are you going to cold call at 8 o'clock? Nobody.
Ghostbusters.
Right? Yeah. Unless you're doing it on you're in the East Coast and you're calling California, but it's tough. With Facebook, you can set that up. You could set up a low budget, so you have 1 or 2 leads coming in every day. So it's manageable. And then now you can deal with those leads in any way you can. The other thing also, I don't think we discussed, is the power of right now is using, it's very text message driven. If you can't talk on the phone, you can initially, what we found is that we start to have that dialogue back and forth with the leads with texting. I
learned that from you.
Yeah, try it. So, for example, we'll ask, hey, what kind of condition it is, and so we initiate. Because if you think about it this way, most of us are used to texting. The only time you talk on the phone is if you have set up that conversation with someone on text. You're like, hey, I'm gonna call you because I need to ask you a question or whatever.
Right.
If I call my wife over the phone, she asks me, what's wrong? Why are you calling? You know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you have to think about it is you have to approach it like people are already used to. So what I would do is a lead comes in, you text message the lead, hey, this is Chris from Sawyer USA Home today. I got your information about the property. I'd love to make you an offer. Could you tell me a little bit about the property? Hey, what kind of condition it is in? And you kind of go back and forth. The story I always like to say, kind of illustrate this is my wife, we were trying to get health insurance. So my wife filled out the form and the website that they have. And then all of a sudden, the next day, she's getting call after call from all these people that want her business. They're all calling, and guess what she's doing? And she doesn't want to pick up the phone. But there's one guy that text messaged her.
See?
Hey, and he, you know, I'd love to get more information, whatever I can give you. And she went back and forth for about a week. And finally, he's like, hey, it'd be good if we could just get on the phone because it's better for me to explain this to you. That guy's the only guy that texts, and he's the guy that got the policy. And that illustrates that. So if it doesn't, you know, think about it. I always think of it this way. Talk to the customer in the modality that they called you.
Yep.
So if you send a direct mail piece and they do leave your message, go ahead and call them because they left you a message. If they don't pick up, text them. Hey, this is Chris. I just called you. Let me know a good time to chat. But in our scenario, Facebook, they're filling out the form. They're working in that modality of on the phone. They're not talking to nobody, right? Just ease into the conversation by text messaging them. And so that's the other kind of benefit way of operating within the ecosystem is that if you're working a full-time job, you could have the ads run during the day. You could just text message people as the leads are coming in. So you're not, and then finally you get to a point where you're going to have a phone conversation. Then you get on the phone with them. So that's the other benefit.
Just remember, guys, this is a relationship building business. So the way you follow, you know, you can use multiple modalities to follow up. We spoke about this earlier today. We spoke about pay-per-click and direct mail and let's say cold calling or whatever the case may be. And then how I use RVMs and text messages and things like that to follow up. That's a perfect example of that. If you build a relationship, you have to remember you're building relationships with people that don't know you over time. And if, just like what Chris mentioned, it took the guy, what was it, a week, maybe 2 weeks to get the policy,
right?
The health coverage policy. He built a relationship. He stood out from everybody else. So who else in your market is running Facebook ads? Who else in your market is doing text messaging and using modern day technology to get deals? That's what you want to keep in mind. Really, really powerful tip right there, Chris. And I really appreciate you bringing that out. But I know we have to get this wrapped up here. Quick question for you. If you had to put it in, let's say 3 simple steps, what would be the 3 steps that people need to take to get started? And then how can they find out more information on how to get started with Facebook ads right now?
To get started, I'll give you a couple things. Number one is that a big tip is open up what's called a business manager. Facebook has, if you go to business.facebook.com, regardless if you're learning with me or anybody else, you want to open up a business account with Facebook. Everybody has a personal ad account that they can advertise with. Do not do that. Open up a business manager, which is like creating its own unique entity. A business manager is its own unique person inside of Facebook, different than you, that now you'll use that in order to create your ad account and create your page, right? That's first of all, you need that, number one. Number two, you can create very easily, okay? You need a website. Everybody should have a website. So that's number one. And number two is create a business page. Create a business page, name it personal. Take a pic. All you need is this. Don't get caught up with a camera, nothing like that. Take your phone, take a picture, put it on the page. Take your phone and just talk to it like a normal human being. Don't put your robot voice. You know, robot voice is like, hey, my name is Cris Chico, and I buy houses, and blah blah blah. Right? Just use your, hey, my name is Chris, and I buy houses in Broward County. I would love to buy yours. If you have just like a normal person, put it up on the page. Make the page look like, hey, this is a real human being in here, right? And so start with that. Start with getting, like, if all you did right now is just get that, you could do that all by yourself. And then what I have, I think the best thing for everybody here is on my YouTube channel. Okay, you can go to my YouTube channel. You can search for Cris Chico. I always say I've arrived when I know that Google knows me. So all you have to do is type in Cris Chico. Go to my YouTube channel. All right, there is a series of videos that I have. It's a 3-part series on how to, and maybe if you want, I can give you the link to the playlist if you want to put that on the description. But it's a playlist that it's a 3-part series that I cover step by step how we advertise on Facebook. I show you the screenshots of my ads, how they look like. I walk through everything in detail.
We'll link that below. Well, if you could send that link over, I'll link it below in the description box. So if you guys want to check that out, be sure to check out the description box if you're on YouTube.
Yeah, and I had a guy that messaged me recently that told me that they actually were able to get their first deal simply with the free training that I have on YouTube. Right. And I have paid training too as well. But I would say the first start is for you to go through that free training that I have on YouTube, go through that. And then at that point, then now you're in a position to decide, hey, is this something I want to do or don't want to do? Mm-hmm. So that would be the place that I would say, hey, just check me out on YouTube and that we can get to know each other that way.
That's right, man. So what is it? Is it youtube.com/flip anywhere? Or what is it?
It's youtube.com/user/flip anywhere. But the best thing to do is just to go to YouTube, search for my name, Cris Chico, CrisChico. I will show up with me, with my face, with a blue background. You can't miss it. It is the most obnoxious little, but I do that on purpose so I would catch your attention. And you'll see my channel. Go there on the playlist. I have the playlist there, and watch the videos and it'll be like I said. I did a really good job, I think, of walking through. So even if you could go through that material and start running Facebook ads right now if you wanted to. Awesome.
Now listen, guys. If you're watching this on YouTube, go in the description box below, and I'll link that series for you. If you're listening to this on the podcast, go to my channel at youtube.com/Jamel Gibbs, just to keep it simple. And you can find this video and I'll link it. You'll find in the description box, you'll find that link as well. Or you can simply go to Chris's page, go to YouTube and type in Cris Chico, CRIS, and last name Chico, CHICO. Search for Cris on YouTube, and you'll be able to find that video on his page as well.
Yeah, I mean, the other link I would say is if you another way to get to it is if you go to CrisChico.com, go to my name, /training, CrisChico.com/training. I also have access to the materials there as well, so that you can get access to them there.
Perfect. CrisChico.com/training, guys. Be sure to check that out. And it has been a real pleasure talking with the creator, the godfather of virtual wholesaling. And now he's quickly becoming the godfather of Facebook traffic as well. So, Cris, it's been a real pleasure, man. Always important to drive leads, and be consistent with driving leads. And this is a really inexpensive way to drive high quality leads. And it's been a real pleasure having you, Cris.
Thank you. It was an honor. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Any last words for our listeners?
Any last words? I would say my last words are for anybody here in this business, sometimes doing the best you can sometimes isn't good enough. Doing what's required is what gets the job done. So at the end of the day, that's my motto. My motto is that this business is amazing in the opportunities it provides. However, keep in mind is that it requires hard work and persistence. The one comment I would say, and I would just want to say this as a compliment to you, Jamel, is that one of the things I like about you is the fact that you are no nonsense. If you might get a little bit of tough love from him, okay? but at the end, he's like that. He wants you to succeed. So one of the other things I appreciate about you, if I was a real estate investor starting out, you're the type of coach that I would want. Because you tell me, Chico, you got to get your act together because you ain't going to do no deals if you keep on doing this. Okay. So I would say you got to be mindful of that. There's time and energy and effort required. Pick one guy that you're going to follow, that you're going to go in all in with, that you trust, and they're going to go ahead and you're going to focus on them. And just don't try and follow everybody. Just follow one guy. Highly recommend Jamel. He's great. And again, he's going to give it to you. He's going to give it to you straight, whether you like it or not. But in the end, it's like your grandma giving you your medicine. At the end, she's going to try to give it to you the nice way. But if not, she's going to slap you upside the head and say, take your medicine. Otherwise, I'm going to give you a whoop. So that's the way that's what I would say. I think you would agree with that, right?
Absolutely, man. Hey, I really appreciate you jumping on board and providing such great value for us today, man. It's been a real pleasure. And guys, I will talk to you on the next one. Take care.